Next! Hi, my name is Tamina Aziz and I'm auditioning for the role of exotic Arab girl.
Great, go ahead.
Before we begin, I just want to let you know that I'm not actually Arab.
That's fine. You look the part. Plus, when do we ever cast people to their actual races?
That's true, I guess. Jonathan, I can't do this.
Stop. Can you do an accent?
There's no indication of her needing an accent.
Yeah, we sort of envision her having an accent. You know, she's ethnic, she's exotic, it's part of her identity. We want to establish that.
I don't really feel comfortable doing that. I mean, there's a whole generation of us who are born and raised here who don't have accents, so I don't really see a need.
The role pays $10,000, so...
You know what? I'll try an accent.
Okay, great. And you saw the note about her taking off the hijab after she falls in love with Jonathan, right?
No, I haven't.
Hi, I'm Tamina Aziz and welcome to my YouTube channel. So believe it or not, that audition was loosely based on a real one that I had, and I remember thinking, this can't be real. But sadly, it was. And I just couldn't believe a script like that was even greenlit. Like, I can just imagine in the writer's room, they were like, yes, let's introduce a Muslim character and you know what? Let's make sure she's covered, okay? She's wearing the hijab and you know what? She gets bullied. She gets teased when she prays, but there's only one boy, a white boy, who doesn't tease her. And she falls in love. She realizes that she's been oppressed and she takes off that hijab and they fall in love and she leaves her family for him and they live happily ever after. Yes, brilliant, right? I just can't believe it's 2024 and scripts like this still exist, and it just goes to show just how behind we are when it comes to Muslim representation in Hollywood. And I think it's important to address. So that's exactly what we're going to be discussing today. So let's get into it.
Hollywood has a long history of shaping public perceptions, and unfortunately, when it comes to Middle Easterners, Central Asians, South Asians, especially Muslims, these portrayals have often been steeped in stereotypes and misconceptions. The portrayal of Arabs in Hollywood dates back over 100 years ago, with films like The Sheik, which capitalized on the allure of the exotic East. During this period, Arabs were often depicted as exotic, mysterious, dangerous, both seductive and barbaric. These depictions were heavily influenced by colonial attitudes and Orientalist perspectives.
This framing basically reinforced this idea of Western superiority and perpetuated this view of Muslims and Eastern cultures as other, a very much me versus them kind of mentality. And it laid out the groundwork for the many harmful stereotypes that we see today. So, what are those stereotypes?
Some of the most common stereotypes include the villain, often depicted as terrorists or tyrants. They can also be the religious extremists. This stereotype reinforces the idea that Arabs and Muslims are inherently violent and threatening. This not only dehumanizes them, but it also fuels fear and xenophobia. Then there's the desert dweller. These characters are shown living in endless deserts, disconnected from modern life. Then there's the oil billionaire. These characters are extremely wealthy, influential, but usually depicted as ruthless, manipulative, and/or untrustworthy. Then there's the oppressed woman. These are female characters often portrayed as veiled, oppressed, helpless, and in need of rescuing. And in contrast, there's the harem girl. These characters are sexualized and fetishized. These portrayals emphasize exoticism and sensuality, often reducing complex cultural identities to mere objects of desire.
War movie, what do we got? Faceless Arabs. Yes, I like it. Bombers. Brilliant. Belly dancers, billionaires. Yes and yes. We need to paint these women like they're these oppressed, exotic figures that need to be conquered, and the men as though they're disgusting and ruthless and barbaric.
Yeah, but why?
Patriotism.
Well, what about those people who are from those countries?
What about them?
Well, don't you think that by painting them in such a negative light all the time that it's going to lead to some bad public perception?
Nah, nothing's gonna happen to them. Now, these stereotypes have far-reaching consequences. You know, what happens when you vilify and dehumanize such a large group of people? It's going to lead to racism. It's going to lead to hate crimes. It's going to lead to real-world discrimination and violence. I mean, just take a look at these scenes from Rules of Engagement and American Sniper. These movies are told through an American patriotic lens, celebrating the heroism and sacrifice of these American soldiers, but basically depicting Arabs and Muslims in an ugly light, portraying civilians as threats and justifying violence against innocent people. And you know what's even more disturbing? The comments under these movie clips. It's just people who are glorifying war and justifying the killing of innocent people, including kids. And I just think it's insane, but that is how you brainwash people.
There was even a study done by the University of Southern California which highlighted a significant lack of representation for Muslim characters in films. Out of 200 top-grossing movies analyzed, 181 didn't include any Muslim characters.
The game right now is messed up. The game right now is rigged. Muslims are either not on screen, or where they are, they're the bad guys. They're perpetrators or victims of violence. We're either invisible or we're villainized, because the stories we tell about a community affect the laws that get passed, the people that get attacked, the countries that get invaded.
And when it comes to casting, Hollywood has a long history of whitewashing, where they get white actors to play roles that are meant for people of color.
Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra, Siren of the Nile.
Now, this not only erases authentic voices, but it also just reinforces this idea that white actors can only play complex roles. And we see it in Middle Eastern and Central Asian roles, and I'll give you some examples right now. Anna Golja, who played Mina, an Afghan pre-med student in The Cuban, and Christopher Abbott, who played Fahim Ahmadzai, an Afghan man in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Leonardo DiCaprio, his name is kind of being like floated to play the Persian philosopher and poet Rumi. Why a blonde-haired, blue-eyed man would be seen to be the most appropriate actor for that role is something that really needs to be scrutinized. And it's not as though this is an isolated event. I once, many years ago for some reason, cast as an extra in The Prince of Persia, and I quit after the first day. The lead characters, who are all supposed to be from the Middle East, were uniformly all white.
And while I understand it's harder to find actors from these regions, it still doesn't justify filmmakers and casting directors to get lazy and cast white people for these roles. You want a story to be told accurately, you should be casting people who are from those appropriate regions. Authentic representation. Come on. And that's why I was happy to see the uproar when it came to the casting of Aladdin, because it showed the importance of holding these production companies accountable. And clearly it did a good job. I mean, it made over $1 billion, so cast accurately.
This season on Shahs of Sunset.
No one did either, bro. We know that.
Who the f invited the terrorists? Because someone is hijacking my peace summit.
I'm not gonna do this.
I'm the only person
I'm
that's
leaving.
gonna
Gigi, I'm leaving.
You're not. I'm gonna get like the sharpest knife out of the kitchen.
Just talk, bro.
Please stop.
Listen, I love reality TV just like the next girl, and I love Shahs of Sunset. I find that show so entertaining, but I remember when it first came out, I thought, oh my gosh, we're getting to watch these very successful Persian Americans and it's going to be in this very positive light, but that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it's still reality TV and it's going to be sensationalizing and focusing on the drama of these people's lives, and it's never going to be an accurate representation of both the people and the community. So when it comes to reality TV, we do need to be a bit cautious because yes, it offers visibility, but it may also contribute to some level of misrepresentation.
Rami, do you want to stay alone forever?
Mom, you can't just walk up to a Muslim girl and like start spitting game or something. Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, hey, can I get your father's number?
Yes, why not?
Thankfully, change is happening. More Middle Eastern, Central Asian, and South Asian filmmakers and actors are telling their own stories and challenging the status quo. Shows like Rami and films like Fremont offer more authentic and diverse representations of life and culture for people from these regions. There are great examples of how media can tell more nuanced and authentic stories. Rami really shines by diving deep into the life of a first-generation Egyptian American, bringing out the complexities of cultural and religious identity with a mix of humor and realness. Meanwhile, Fremont offers a thoughtful look at an Afghan refugee's life in the US, focusing on her everyday struggles and personal growth without falling into stereotypes. Both of these works do an amazing job of showing what's really going on with their characters, moving beyond the usual cliches. They remind us of why it's so important to have genuine, sensitive portrayals in media.
It's time for Hollywood to move beyond these harmful stereotypes and instead embrace the richness of these cultures and stories. You know, accurate representation is so important. It bridges gaps, it fosters understanding, it creates a more inclusive and empathetic world, which, come on, let's face it, we really need. So my call to action for you is to unlearn these harmful stereotypes because they are very damaging, and to watch these films with a critical eye. And if you're a person of color and a creative, then please don't let anyone stop you from writing your stories, because your unique voice matters. Find initiatives or projects that you can apply to make sure your script comes to life, because the world needs to hear that unique story. Trust me. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more deep analysis into pop culture and media. Until next time, bye.
Patriotism!